It's not even a month into 2026, and we already have some solid new retro handhelds on the scene. That doesn't mean the older ones suddenly became outdated. A lot of the devices that launched last year are still worth grabbing, and some are more practical than anything brand new. So let me first start with the recent models that have stood out. Then we'll look at a few classics that are still a good deal. Retroid Pocket 6 feels like a handheld shaped by feedback. The layout options make a real difference depending on what you play, and performance is strong enough that it doesn't feel like a compromise. Retroid devices have always been the best bang for your buck, and Retroid Pocket 6 is no exception. If you want more steady performance for PC emulation, then AYN Odin 3, Ayn's newest retro handheld, is for you. Built around Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Elite chip and a vibrant 120Hz 6-inch AMOLED screen, it is the most complete Android handheld of this generation. Power where it matters, plus the kind of versatility that makes it useful as more than just a retro machine. The Odin 2 Portal was one of the Android flagship handhelds that pushed big screen emulation with its Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip and a 7-inch 120Hz OLED display, making it great for everything from retro classics up through heavier Switch titles and Android gaming. As we roll into 2026, and the Odin 2 Portal is currently on a limited time sale, with the base model dropping to around $249. So you have the option between this and the Retroid Pocket 6. One of the most fun devices I've used is the Anbernic RG Slide. The sliding screen design feels strange at first, but once you get used to it, it makes sense. It feels like a mix of a phone and a console, and the screen is smooth enough that fast games just feel better to play. It's not the smallest thing around, but it still fits in a pocket, and performance for PS2 and GameCube is solid enough that I never felt limited. If nostalgia matters to you, the Anbernic RG34XXSP hits hard. It looks and feels like a GBASP, but with just enough modern upgrades to make it useful today. The addition of analog sticks opens up systems that the original hardware could never touch. The Retroid Pocket Classic is another one that surprised me. It has that old-school Game Boy vibe, but under the hood it's way more capable than it looks. I like how Retroid leaned into the classic feel without locking it into old limitations. It feels right for long Pokemon sessions, but it also has enough power that you're not stuck in the past. For longer play sessions, the Anbernic RG557 makes a lot of sense. This one clearly wasn't built for pockets. It's built for comfort. The grips, the stick placement, and the overall feel make it closer to holding a controller with a screen attached. If you usually play on the couch or while traveling with a bag, this is the kind of handheld that won't cramp your hands after an hour. The MagicX is a weird one, but in a good way. It's clearly designed with Nintendo DS games in mind, but instead of copying the clamshell like the others, it goes for a vertical screen. It sounds risky, but it works. DS games feel natural, and the device still feels well built. It's also small enough that you actually forget it's in your pocket. The Retroid Pocket Flip 2 is still a good clamshell handheld. The flip design protects the screen, acts like its own stand, and makes it easy to use anywhere. The hinge problem affecting earlier flip models has been addressed. Newer batches use a revised hinge design, and so far it's been holding up better in regular use. The OLED screen helps a lot for older games, and the overall upgrade from the original Flip is noticeable. It's one of those devices that just fits into daily life without effort. Then there's the Ayn Thor. Technically, this is on another level. Dual screens, strong performance, and a premium feel all around. It feels like an endgame device that you enjoy carefully rather than casually. The dual screen setup is one of those features that sounds gimmicky, but actually works like a charm. For DS and 3DS games, it feels natural since both screens are visible at once without weird layouts. It also helps with multitasking, where you can keep menus, chat, or maps on the second screen, while the main display stays focused on the game. It turns the Thor into something that feels closer to a modern DS-style handheld, but with way more power and flexibility. There you go. This was a pretty basic video, just meant to show what each of these handhelds does well and why they still matter. I didn't want to get buried in specs or deep testing here, because every one of these devices has its own charm depending on how and what you'd like to play.